All right, beautiful humans, welcome back to another episode of Naked Sunday. I am your host, Caleb Nelson. And today, the topic of conversation is, are you looking for answers in the wrong place? Pause for effect. Why am I bringing this one up today? Well, this has been inspired by a few different conversations about couples miscommunicating, people burying their heads in the sand, looking at their work and all their other distractions in life. And I've done a couple podcasts on distractions. I've done podcasts on growing together. I want to start this one off reflecting on that, but I want to start with a story before that. I don't know the parable. I don't know the story. I just know the general concept, and I'm going to do the best to reiterate it. So just bear with me. I'll do the best I can. There's this story, and forgive me if I don't remember who to quote it from. I'm winging it, classic Caleb style, Naked Sunday style. At the beginning of time, there was the gods, and the gods were looking to hide the meaning of life. And they're sitting there, they're taking different suggestions. And one of them goes, let's put it at the bottom of the ocean. And one of them goes, nah, eventually one day they will find it. Humans will find it. Another one goes, what if we bury it deep under the ground, really low below the surface? No, one day they will find it. They will search far and wide. They will dig to the depths of the earth and they will find it. What if we hide it up in the trees? Same thing. What if we put it in the stars? No, they will one day build ships and fly to the heavens and find it. And then one day, finally they get to one of the gods and they say, you know what? We need to hide it in the last place they will look, inside of them. Now, again, forgive me for not necessarily portraying that story perfectly. I know it was a little rough around the edges. But what I will say is that when I first heard that story, I believe it was in some life coaching course or something or other. Not exactly sure. But that story resonated very deeply with me. In that, especially at this juncture in time, what I'm finding is so many people have very little confidence in themselves. They have very little confidence in themselves to make decisions. They feel alone. They feel afraid. Ironically enough, surrounded by all the tools, all the things, all the exterior things that you would need to facilitate communication and connection as quickly as humanly possible. This is the digital age. This is the ability to travel anywhere in the world you want. We've got spaceships now that are sending people to outer space as just casual bystanders, not actual astronauts. We have the ability to connect. Yet people are alone in a crowd. They are alone in their relationships. They are less and less confident every single day in being able to engage and create and cultivate a deep, loving, meaningful relationship with themselves and with their significant others and with their family, with their colleagues, with their business partners, with their clients, with a friggin' stranger. Yet, we are still, and I'm using we in a broad term, I don't want to say you, maybe it is you, maybe it's not, but if you're listening at this far with me and you're just hanging on for the ride, cool. We collectively, by and large, in mass, are still looking out into the universe externally for some question or answer or resolution to come from the ethers, from the heavens, from somebody else. They're waiting for the thing outside of their control to solve their problem for you. And what hopefully that story portrays is the fact that the answer is not out there. It is inside of you. It is that little voice when things get actually quiet, when you remove the distractions, and I'll go into those in a second, when you quiet down the noise, whether it's literally in sound or any other type of overwhelming stimuli, when you bring that down to a dull roar and then finally to silence, you can actually hear that voice. Now, I can't begin to tell you how many people I know or talk to that the notion of sitting still for 1 minute, if you just told them, just do that. Like, I can't do that, let alone 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 20 minutes. No, I can't do that. An immediate reaction. Well, usually, and by usually, I'm going to do one of those guarantees that I don't like to guarantee because there's no absolutes in this world, but I'm going to go out on a guarantee and do it anyway. Guarantee you that's the person who needs to sit still for that long and just slow the F down and just be with themselves. Because what they're actually avoiding is the truth. They actually know the answer. That person might be you. And the reason why I'm coming to find that people don't want to slow down and sit with that is because ultimately, when they hear that voice and it is crystal clear, it cannot be unheard. And the awareness around that not only stays there, but then it spreads like wildfire. Because then you see that truth in every other aspect of your life, in your business, in your health practices, in your relationships with your friends, family, and otherwise. You cannot unsee it, unhear it, unfeel it, unknow it. It is there. I'm a big fan of the movie Inception, and that's more or less the concept there, to drop that little thing inside of you so that you become aware, and then it transforms everything on the exterior. Because when you get down to the core, that is what is framing your experience. It is framing your perception of external variables. And if you're not listening all the way down to the root, and you're shielding that and putting up a false armor, a false projection of what you say you are aware of and care about and believe in and all that, it is replicating itself on the outside. What it's also saying is you don't feel safe enough within yourself. Good, bad, or indifferent, it is what it is. And I do find and feel sadness and heartache for those who don't feel safe enough to let that go, to be at peace and at stillness with that consciousness, that deep consciousness. Call it God, call it spirituality, call it whatever you want, call it the universe, call it the divine intervention, whatever word you want, whatever flavor of spirituality and existential connection you want to be. Call it consciousness. I would go so far as to say that's the true self. The ideal self is buried within all of that. And perhaps our entire life is an endeavor at getting back to that purity that's there. Perhaps that was there when we were born. We just put on all this, we strapped on all this BS armor as we went through this life, protecting ourselves from other people's projections of their own insecurities and fear and sadness and rage and jealousy and all the other things. So where do we take this? How do we hear this manifesting itself in your own behaviors? How can you start to take accountability? Well, because, just to clarify, it's on you. It's not on somebody else to change. You need to inspire change by leading by example. If you're expecting the other way around, that's that victim mentality. And guess what? The more you stay in that, you're going to stay that forever. Probably doesn't feel good. If you don't like the way you feel right now, expect that feeling to remain and or amplify. And I'm going to go on a limb and say it's going to amplify, because you will accumulate more responsibilities and bear burdens. You'll pile more on under that pretext. It is a system that cannot bear that load. So you will feel worse. Calling it like it is. That hopefully scares you enough to say, I don't like that idea. The longer you put this off, it's like not paying a credit card bill. It's not the same bill next month. It's more with interest. And eventually you have to declare bankruptcy and go back to square zero with other stipulations. That's scary. Imagine that on a spiritual level, a relational level, a health level, a business level. It's all the same thing. How this plays out, how we hear that people are looking in the wrong place for answers. I don't like usually like using right and wrong, but this is a clear indicator that there needs to be there's a moment now for a perspective shift when somebody's frustrated and how they describe their problems. They blame other people. My husband doesn't listen to he wouldn't listen to that. She's not doing this. She's not paying attention to me that way. I don't feel fulfilled this way. I don't do that way. My kids aren't this. I'm not getting the promotions I want at work. I don't feel valued in my job. They're not paying attention. Somebody else is getting this. Somebody else is getting that. And it's everybody else's fault. And all the while, what you're neglecting is you made choices, however far back, to get yourself into that position. And it was predicated on your decision that you wanted to go this path. Can you claim ignorance that you didn't know what it was going to be like at this moment? Absolutely. And guess what? Nobody does. But you were attracted to something and some end goal at the end of that rainbow. The question becomes, were you attracted to the right thing? Were you drawn to the money, the sex, the fame, the parties, the lavish lifestyle, the external validation? Were you attracted to that? Or are you attracted and driven and drawn and pulled by what calls you, by what fills your soul, by what fulfills a deeper relationship within yourself? Now, if you're at a moment right now in your life where you believe you're at a bit of an impasse, you're feeling that friction, there's a ton of friction, there's that weight, there's that stagnation, there's that fatigue, there's that just that furrowed brow, the clenched jaw, the sleepless nights. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's time to reevaluate what was driving you, because that's how you organized your life to facilitate that idea of success. And that came from within. They are, all those blaming things out there are reflections of exactly what you said you wanted. This is just the stopgap. Are there people who behave like assholes in this world? Absolutely. But what they are showing you at that moment is this is the end of the line for what you said you wanted. This is what comes with that, with the stipulations you said you wanted in the first place. That's a really hard pill to swallow, because you ultimately are turning that finger of blame back at yourself by doing that. You're taking ownership. And that is terrifying. This is a big reason why I love entrepreneurs. However, somebody runs a business, whatever. When somebody takes a leap of faith, if I'm going to do this thing, they're going on a spiritual journey and they're going to have a living, eating, breathing, sleeping thing called a business. It's much like a child. I only know this because I've talked to a lot of people who have kids and have had businesses, and they say the same thing. No matter what, they decided to take ownership. They're going to take a leap of faith on themselves to build something. And you learn something along the way. But and I've also seen people who operate from a victim mindset who own a business. And I have been there. So I am not devoid of this. You will make mistakes along the journey. You will hit roadblocks. You will hit stagnation points. You will hit an inflection point like, oh, I didn't realize I was being driven by that. Whoops. How do I course correct? You look inward again. You go back to yourself. You look within yourself for the answers. Trusted advisors, people who truly understand you, will hold space for that. They are also reflections, but they're reflections of your core values, of the things that actually matter to you. They're holding you accountable. Sometimes the message they're going to give you does not come in the tone or the delivery style that you want. It's probably not what you need. It's probably smack you in the face with some truth. It's the whole play mom against dad kind of thing. When kids just want one thing, it's like, well, mom said this and oh, I want that. That's why divorces are really messy, but often because the co-parenting idea, they're not on the same page. And people play guilt and shame and expectations and all that stuff. Take that concept and jump it out into everything else in your life. Business partnerships, coaching relationships, employee-employer relationships, relationship with your health. Playing mom against dad. Playing the masculine against the feminine. Playing the light against the dark. It's the same damn thing. What's in the middle? What's consistent? What's true? You have to look within yourself. That's the whole concept of staring yourself in the mirror. What do you see? Are you behaving in a way that you love yourself? If the answer is no, how do you expect yourself to properly love those in your stead? And more often than not, it's how are you leading them? Are you meeting them with abrasiveness? A lot of telling people what they should and shouldn't be doing, guilt and shame tactics? Probably, because you're getting that in return. You're getting the mirror. You're getting the same thing back. It might have taken longer than you expected to actually feel it all and understand it all, but that's what's happening. So when you're looking out at solving your problems, people think, oh, I've got a health problem, or I've got a business problem. This was a perfect example for me. I'll use this one. I thought I had a sales problem. Did all the mechanical stuff right. We would have that. It was at the gym. I'm just thinking back to those times. When I actually kept banging my head against the wall and realized like I'm still doing these same things, but it's not changing anything. I said, I have to be the problem because I'm the face of this thing. I'm the one who's welcoming people into this space. I walked it back. I said, what's the real problem here? Well, when I sat with myself, I was like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm edgy. I'm strung out. Where did that start with? Oh, there's a lot of friction with my wife right now. We've had a couple arguments this week. We're not on the same page. We're not feeling connected. We haven't gone on a date. We haven't been inspired by each other. I'm not as soft with my words with her. I'm not connecting with her. So when I'm showing up to work the next day, I'm still a little on edge. I'm carrying that weight. I'm feeling a little more tense. My staff is feeling the same way. I'm bringing probably that slight edge to my clients, no matter how much of a face I paint on. And when I show up to a sales meeting or whatever it was, a consult, change your words interchangeably, however you want it to be, I was not as present. I was not as confident. I was not as comfortable. I was not as open. I was not as in the room and aware and conscious as I needed to be to ask the actual question that would actually provide insight and clarity for both parties involved, namely for the person who needs the support and help in changing their life. So I was looking in the wrong place. Instead, what I did is I went back and I recalibrated my relationship first with myself. One, I had to own up, to look at the mirror and say, Caleb, you're messing up. You need to change this. This is not how you arrive as a man in support of your wife. Or maybe she was my fiance at the time. This is not how you want to show up as somebody who loves this human being, this person who stood by you, who has supported you through dark times. You're just feeling insecure with yourself, so you're projecting your nonsense on her. How about you just ask her how she's doing? How about you apologize? How about you invite her on a date, or you make her dinner, or you cuddle with her on the couch, or just give her a hug, damn it, for 5 minutes? Crazy enough, when I started doing that, the energy softened. We embraced. We were connected again. We felt that deep sense of intimacy. When I felt solid and whole on the home front, guess what I did? I showed up to work the next day feeling energized, refreshed, connected, inspired. I asked the questions I needed to. I saw the results in people's eyes. I saw the awakening in their minds and saying that inspiration within themselves. And then when I showed up to bring in somebody new into this community, this space, this inviting environment that now was prepped to receive somebody to change because it was safe enough for them to walk through the door now, I was ready to ask them the right question so that they could see the answers for themselves, because it was about them understanding themselves. So my friends, as I wrap this conclusion, this tale up, I challenge you to look within yourself. If you've been hitting this impasse in your life, if you're at this inflection point, look at the big picture. If you're preparing for retirement, or your kids are getting ready to make you empty nesters, or your kids are about to go off to kindergarten, you're about to have more time at home, or you're about to change jobs, or you're about to pursue a new relationship, or you're about to go on a health journey, or whatever it is, any of those things, or you're about to start a business, or you're about to start a new program or offering within your business, go back to the beginning. Go back to yourself. Look inward. Stop looking outward for the answers. Look at the relationship first. It is not the business first. It's not the external thing first. Look at the relationship first with yourself and then with your closest circle. And be honest. And point the finger of blame at yourself with love and empathy, and say, hey, I messed up, and forgive yourself, because how could you have known? You didn't. But in that empathy, own up and make change and take action. And you will see the trickle-down effect everywhere else in your life. If you are struggling and you are seeing this transpire in your relationships, I'd love to be part of that solution. And you know that I'm always here for you. All you have to do is ask. People cannot read your mind. Husband, friends, wife, you name it, clients. Nobody can read your mind as much as anybody thinks they can. Ask for help. Those are all my thoughts for today, my friends. Start looking in the right place for answers. And until next time, I remind you to love everybody.